Mobile healthcare met de hertogin van Mobile healthcare met de hertogin van de feiten, de Duchess of Data, Laura Madsen. A warm welcome.
Thank you.
How would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, not officially the Duchess of Data, but maybe I should be. I am the founder and president of Route 25, and it's a company that I'm creating to really take advantage of what I believe to be the revolution in healthcare, which is it's time for us to really open up the coffers and get data out there so that we can improve the data, because that's really what it's going to take.
What is the heart of that revolution?
To me, at this point, the heart of the revolution is what we've been doing for a really long time isn't working anymore. And it's critical for us to be able to allow our users to actually use the data. That's the whole point of the function. And I think for a very long time, we have focused so much on making sure the data was correct and of high quality. But the people that can really help us identify what that means are the end users. It's just terrifying because there's this perception that they could very well use it wrong or something like that. So it's just, we're sort of at that point now, it's a tipping point where there's so many people that we could never possibly keep up. We could never possibly prepare and create and make sure that that data is 100% appropriate or correct. That it's just too many users and not enough us.
There's quite some discussion about the topic. What would you like to add to that discussion?
About data,
Yeah.
just in general? Well, wow, that's a really big question because there are so many things
What's
going
your
on right
unique
now.
selling point
Yeah.
in a way? Yeah.
I think it really does come back to that sort of conceptually that revolution and how we make that revolution happen. In some respects, that means that we have to modernize how we approach data governance. Even the term data governance implies sort of this command and control approach to the work. And I think what has to happen is we've got to make sure that as we're comparing metrics across an organization, that we all know what those metrics are and how they're defined and where they come from. But beyond that, any sort of perspective of command and control really is so outdated and so difficult to achieve that it's just not going to be able to really work anymore. So from a data governance perspective, this concept of modernizing that governance to get people to use the data and tell us where things aren't working the way that they had anticipated so that we can go back and kind of, where you want to fix data quality is as close to the source as possible. So we go back and then we fix that source. But that means we've got to make sure that people can actually use the data.
Yeah. What annoys you when it comes to this debate?
Well, that's a long, long list of things that annoy me.
Take one or two.
One or two, okay. I would say that probably the first and foremost is what we do is we tend to hit the easy button a lot. We focus on the wrong things. We focus on the technology. We focus on what we can buy in terms of software, and that is absolutely the wrong thing to do because that's not where the work really is. That's just a binary effort of I have a budget, I have a piece of software, but half the time we don't even really know what the problem is before we buy the software, right? So I think that would be one of my big issues. The other one is I think right now in the field, because there are so many software systems out there, and there's so many vendors out there selling things from a software perspective, that half the time it's a solution looking for a problem. And we don't even, most of our organizations, really understand the problems with any depth in order to really buy the thing that we need. So it really has to be about the process and the work and the people doing the work and understanding where the problems are before we start looking for things to purchase to fix the problem.
Yeah.
So it's very much the vendors themselves that are kind of out there selling things and selling a glossy brochure when we're really not even sure what the problem is to begin with.
Even when you're a specialist, you in your field, in my field, we learn every day. What did you learn lately about e-health?
I've actually learned a lot lately, and it's been a sort of a painful transition because the truth is that I'm a very pragmatic person. I've been doing this for 20 years. There's nothing particularly aggressive about my approach historically. I've always felt like if you just do the work and you put your head down and you govern your data, everything's going to be fine. But what I've learned lately is I do believe that while we're all really out there for a lot of good intent, we are at a point now across the industry from a data perspective that it is critically important for us, and it is time for us to revolt a little bit, right? That revolution.
In which way?
By getting that data out there, by making sure that we focus on winning the hearts and minds of the people in our organization, and not focusing so much on the data itself or the technology.
The phrase winning hearts and minds is a phrase that comes from a war. Why do you use it?
Because a war.
It was from the Gulf War.
Yeah, and I'm sure in some respects it's probably been out there in different, ways in the past, and I can't say that it's necessarily a war right now, but I believe it's hearts and minds because it's about the people. And well, like I said, everybody has a lot of good intent, and I don't believe anybody's out there, software vendors included, trying to do something, bad. But at the end of the day, it really has to be about the people in your organization, the people that are using the data, and the people that are preparing that data, and winning their hearts and minds so that they understand what the work is in front of them, right? And if there has to be a change, then that change has to be sourced from their own internal motivation. You can't force somebody to do something. We've just got to make sure that they understand their hearts and from their heart and from their mind, right?
When you think about this topic, is there something that you doubt about? That you just don't know really sure what to think of one of the most important developments?
I don't know that there's...
Would you like to understand more?
Well, I often want to understand everything a little bit more, right? I'm always seeking to learn. It's hard to say what I would have doubts about. For me personally, I'm not a technologist, so I don't have a deep understanding of technology and that kind of a thing. But
also not when it comes to the ethics of things.
How things begin.
Well, maybe privacy.
I think privacy is a different issue and much more embedded in not only a cultural aspect of it, but just how people think about their own privacy. I think it's a generational thing where in the next 20 years we'll see the opinions about privacy shift as the generation changes, right? I also firmly believe that from a privacy perspective, that cat's out of the bag. The data is out of the cat is out of the bag. The data is out there. There's nothing you can really do about that. And so it has to really become a question now of a lot more around transparency and what is happening with the data than it is about stopping or securing it, because it's a little bit of Pandora's box and we've peeked inside. So.
Well, that has been said about the atom bomb too, huh? What we can make, we will make.
Right.
Is that a comparison that's...
Yeah, I just think that data as an entity itself, it seems so abstract, right? These bits and bytes that float around about an individual, but absolutely everything that you do now has data associated with it, and there's no way that you can prevent that data from flowing out. Every time you use your credit card, every time you log in to any app on your phone, anytime that your doctor enters anything to you into your EHR, whether or not that data is shared outside, it's still inside that system. So, and then a lot of times, we inadvertently sell our data and we don't even realize it. So, I would say from a security perspective, it would be very hard to approach it from a control point of view now, right? Because that cat is out of the bag. It really has to be a question of what we're doing with it and why.
Okay. That's worrying.
It can be. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.